On this week's episode of the RAG podcast, I was joined by Elliot Dell. Elliot is the CEO of Salt Recruitment. Salt are a digital tech recruitment business, 15 years old. I think he joined 14 and a half years ago when they had a different name. They've now grown into a global brand with soon to be 10 offices across Australia, Southeast Asia, Dubai, the UK, and New York as well. And they are a brand that are very well known and synonymous in the market with digital. They've invested in brands since day one. Elliot wasn't the founder. He joined as the third hire and assumed CEO responsibility after about 10 years of service. With over 220 staff, his role now is incredible. It's all about empowering people, getting people to buy into a global vision. Look at M&A activities. So a lot of the growth has been through acquisition. And he's on a mission to grow a brand that could get to be even an e-commerce product where his clients can buy a software developer with 7 clicks on a website. He's got a vision that is incredible. Personally, he's also a mindfulness coach, a personal life coach. He's married to a yoga teacher. He doesn't drink alcohol anymore. And he's able to grow this global business while raising 3 children and investing in himself. And his self-love, self-care is something that he's super passionate about. And that translates into how he treats his staff and his customers and his candidates. So a truly inspirational guy, one with so much pace, so much energy, so much drive, has built a brand that most people should know in our market. I think this is it's about an hour and 20 minutes. It went a bit longer, and it's an episode that you really, really do not want to miss. So, without further ado, Elliot, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Thank you, Sean. It's good to be here. I know it's taken a little longer than expected to get it in the diary, but obviously with your wedding and my ruptured Achilles tendon.
We got here in the end, mate, and you've caught me on a day where I'm dressed like a hoodlum. I'm like I'm going to rob someone, and you're dressed like you're going to some kind of cool event.
But your hair always looks really neat, and mine always looks really messy.
Yeah, someone actually wrote on my LinkedIn yesterday, like, dude, you got good hair. I was like, cheers, mate. It makes me feel good about myself.
Yeah, you must have a weekly trip to the barbers.
No, tri-weekly, but yeah, it's definitely in the diary. It's always in the diary. Well, look, Elliot, it's great to have you in, mate. We did meet in the summer. When you just ruptured your tendons, and I asked about it then. So, but actually, we didn't launch season 2 till recently, so you've not missed much. But obviously, I've given you a little intro, but I always ask, can you just give the listeners a quick one-on-one of who you are and what you're up to?
Yeah, so I'm CEO of Salt Recruitment Group. I've been with the business for 14 and a half years. So different to some other CEOs that I know you've interviewed, etc. I come more through the entrepreneur route. So I actually joined the business as it was as a startup, as employee number 3, and I've worked my way, becoming a shareholder, director, and becoming CEO in 2016, kind of working my way up. So I generally have that, coming in, mopping the floors, and then, suddenly getting your own office type story. So it's been a fantastic journey. It's been an exciting journey. It's allowed me to express and embrace my own ambitions in terms of building a global business. And we now stand there today, 225 staff, 9 offices across the world. So London, New York, Auckland, Sydney, Melbourne, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Dubai. And we're just in the process of acquiring a business in a new location. So it will soon be 10 offices, which I'll be really proud of.
Wow. That's a lot going on. So,
yeah.
Look, I don't even know where, I do know where we're going to start because we always go back to the start, but I'm excited about your journey. So 14 years ago, you came into the business, right?
Yes, exactly that.
I think you mentioned to me already, and I won't go into, but it wasn't Salt, was it?
It wasn't Salt.
So what was it?
I got into recruitment when I was 25.
Yeah, same.
Having travelled around the world for a few years, having done too many summers abroad working in Greece, where I met some amazing people. But what it did is everything I've always done has been about human connection, human contact. So I've sold bungee jumps. I've worked in Marks and Spencer's. I had a paper round.
I can imagine you being
bars.
A bungee jump or like windsurfing or
something
like paintballing. Like you're the guy who's going to like get us to buy it, and if we don't, you'll break.
I was the guy getting people to buy it, but I only actually ever did one bungee jump myself. I'm not the best with heights.
Right.
So everything I always did was about human expression, human connection, and exciting and motivating people to do things.
Yep.
So I actually met a chap in the gym when I was about 19 years old. I'd started my university course, which was real estate investment management. And I used to see this guy in the gym every day, and he was always suited and booted, clean shaven, sharp haircut. And I thought, what's that guy doing to be in the gym every single day when I'm there as a student? So I had a chat with him one day, and he told me about the fact that he'd set up and sold a recruitment business. He was working, as a 16-year-old, he was working for his dad, who had a haulage company in Croydon. And he said one day his dad's IT systems went down. And he said, I've got a friend at school that can play around with the computers and stuff. I'll get him in to have a look at the systems. Anyway, cut long story short, turns out that his friends at college were whizzes with regards to tech, and he started selling these guys out to other companies that were in that same building block in Croydon. I think 4 or 5 years later, he'd got the point to where he got bought by a larger recruitment business. So that story always stuck in my head as a sort of, real success story.
Yeah.
But what inspired me the most was the fact that he said he'd got to a point in the business where he was going around to schools, colleges and universities, inspiring people to use their education and get into the world of recruitment. And what I've always loved doing, whether it's been as a football team captain, whether it's been amongst a group of friends, whether it's been working in Greece, is I've always loved inspiring people and motivating people. So really, recruitment was the perfect platform for me to do that. It allowed me to work with customers and inspire candidates to want to work for them.
Yeah.
And then when I started building teams and growing the business, it meant that my job was then to hire people, motivate and inspire them to be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm very proud to lead a successful recruitment business today.
So when you joined it, had you worked in recruitment before?
So I'd done a year in recruitment. I did a year at Computer People.
Right. Got a good training there?
Yeah, look, that year was the absolute foundation for me to understand recruitment. Being part of the Agilon group then, which was part of Adecco, it meant that I got access to people with many years recruitment experience. It meant I got to see it done well, got to see it done not so well. I got to learn about incentives, KPIs, training, development, working as part of a global business really gave me that foundation, and a large part of that is enabled me to build Salt the way it is today.
Wow. So why did you move after a year when you...
So I was quite frustrated working, I guess, in the corporate world. I remember slamming doors a few times on the sales floor, and getting into some sort of altercations on the sales floor with regards to consultants that I would clash with over clients, etc. So I actually had some friends that were setting up a software sales business at the time. And I thought that could be an opportunity for me to join up with them, and I could use their customers to do some recruitment for. I tried that for about 6 to 8 weeks, basically in my kitchen. And, I wasn't the work on your own kind of guy. I needed to be amongst people. So I can't remember whether I reached out to Rec or they reached out to me. But I got presented with a few different opportunities, and one of them happened to be based in Surrey, where I was living, where I grew up. It was in fact in Weybridge, an area that I know very well and lived in before. Yeah. So I thought I'd go along and meet with this business, see what they're all about. Turned out the guy spearheading that build was a guy that I'd interviewed with at Progressive the year before, and he turned me down. So it almost felt like full circle, because he'd said to me, Elliot, go and get some experience, show me that you're not going to go off traveling to Australia or Greece again, and then we'll talk. And I met the founders of the business as well at the time, two brothers, Paul and Marco, and I just liked what their vision was all about. And in fact, one of the first things Paul said to me is, I want to make £1 billion one day. And no one had ever said to me, I want to make £1 billion. And in fact, I didn't think I'd ever meet anyone that said the word £1 billion. So I was just inspired by, the vision that the business had at the time in terms of scale. And I thought it was right for me to be part of a startup situation.
What was the brand called?
So it was called Revelo IT.
Right.
So they had an executive search firm at the time. It was only about sort of 12 people. And they wanted to capitalize upon the tech contract recruitment market at the time, which obviously in the mid-2000s was booming. You had companies like S3 setting up brands like Madison, Black and Huxley, left, right and centre, building out tech contract teams. So I joined that as employee number 3. And then it was about 2009 that there was obviously the global recession had really dropped in. The property crash, the retained market had really gone downhill.
Right.
So their exec search business wasn't doing so well. We'd ridden a bit of a storm on the tech contract side of things. We'd got a few decent clients on board, but where we'd seen synergy with the exec search business and Ravello IT was with software vendors and consultancies. And there was this word, digital, interactive, e-commerce. They were all becoming prominent in what we were doing.
Yeah.
So we actually got a government grant and were able to go through a bit of a consultancy stage of the business and get some free advice, if you like, on what the brand should be, what it should look like, and what market we should go into. From all of that, they came up with a digital vision, came up with the name Salt.
Were you involved in that process?
So we basically sat in on sessions with these like non-exec advisory type characters who had gone out there doing some market and user research, asking our clients both and the candidates as well, what do you want from a recruitment brand? What are the gaps in the market? What sort of customer experience do you want and are you looking for? So we were very integral to those processes. I can't say I was personally directly involved in the name. I remember the name Salt just appearing on us.
Very, very good name.
One day. It's turned into a great name, but at the time we had a lot of consultancy clients and they were kind of shocked at the name.
But you won't forget it.
You wouldn't forget it, no. But it was quite strange at the time, suddenly turning around to our customers and saying that we're called Salt.
So you changed, it wasn't like you grew a new brand, you just rebranded the whole thing.
Yeah, no. So what we did is we merged the exec search firm, which was down to about 5 or 6 people at the time. We'd got Ravello IT up to about 10 people. So once we pushed the two businesses together, we were circa 15 people. And then we launched our digital vision to the market. But still, even within the building, I don't think anyone quite knew what we meant by digital.
Yeah.
You know, we had some UX people that said, it's about creative, it's about UX, it's about design. So we were like, okay, fair enough. And then a marketing recruiter would walk in the room and they'd say, it's about marketing, it's about SEO, it's PPC. And we'd never heard of any of these terms. And in fact, I remember one of my consultants, Sean, placing an SEO role in 2008 or 2009 for AOL, and we thought SEO was a coding language.
Yeah.
So we were being educated along the way, and it got to around I'd say it was 2011, and we started working on some big e-commerce transformations out in Germany through one of our consultancy clients, Infosys.
Yep.
And it was being very integral to these consultancy projects where we really started to understand about what I started to call the complete vision of digital. So I really understood how that creative design conceptual part of the process really played that key initial role, that architectural piece. Then obviously it was about then bringing in your techies, assigning a CTO, a VP of engineering, and then building those development teams, those agile teams that could then take that product forward. Mm-hmm. We'd always worked on the sales side, so I always understood launching and taking the product to market. We understood pre-sales in terms of demoing the products, and then we understood the customer success and post-sales follow-up piece as well. And then I started to understand more about where the marketing piece came into play, the whole advertising side of things, and then started understanding about some of the ad tech platforms and media platforms that I'd heard about. So I decided to carve the business up into 4 key divisions. So it's creative, marketing, sales, and technology.
So you say you decided, but what was your role at this point? Were you in a leadership capability?
So my role at that point, I was sales director for the perm side of the business at that stage.
Did you have remit to change how you structured the company?
So I
just slam a door and do it.
Yeah, look, I've always been a big believer that if you want a role and if you want responsibility, then take it.
Yeah.
Act like it. Make the position so that it is yours. So within each phase of the business, I've always very much had a voice and been very forward thinking and been very confident with what my vision is. So I saw that vision for digital very early on. In 2012, I decided if I was going to make that vision acquisition happening, I had to have control of the brand.
Yeah.
So I had to have control of marketing. So I started managing the marketing side of the business at that stage. That way I was able to get more involved into the look and feel of the website, the tone of voice in terms of what we were talking about on our social channels, all of the content and any literature, brochures, basically anything to do with our brand and the collateral around it. So I was able to effectively help rewrite all of that, help reshape all of that. That then allowed me to make the brand look like a global business, because at that stage we were getting into 2012, 2013. I guess we were circa 25 people.
Right.
And at that stage, I felt we were starting to build a platform that we could take global. So I did some very simple things, just like introducing globes into, some of the collateral that we had. Then we started doing more sort of events and sponsorships. So we started showcasing at London Technology Week in Internet World. And then 2013, I hired a lady called Sarah Da Silva. And that was a massive turning point for me, because she was working for an LGBTQ magazine at the time called Square Peg Media. And I'd never even heard of things like diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
I had never sat on a women in tech panel. I never really understood how we could bring the whole sort of CSR and charity and inclusion piece into the organization without making it look token. So she really educated me on many facets of, I guess, the human aspect of building and running a business. And at the time, we were 85% male. So you can imagine the culture. It was work hard, play hard. It was weekly five-a-side football. It wasn't really an environment where we were thinking about including females or if you're going to hire disabled people. We're about 25, 30 people, okay? So I started sitting on women in tech panels. I started working with The Big Issue. So I got introduced to Stephen Robertson, the CEO at The Big Issue in 2014. He did a talk for us at London Technology Week. And where I saw the link in the partnership there is I'd heard that there was a Big Issue vendor that had started selling the Big Issue using a payments portal, which now is quite common. Everywhere now has you tap your credit card, you can pay for something.
Yeah.
But 5 years ago, it was kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
So I was inspired by this, because what I love about the Big Issue Foundation is that it's providing a step up for homeless people to make money.
Yeah.
Selling the Big Issue is a job. Once they get some income, they can hopefully get a place to live. They can get a bank account, and then they can work their way up that employment ladder. And as a recruitment business, that's what we are here to do. We're here to provide people with a route up the career ladder. So from a CSR point of view, it inspired me to be able to get involved with an organisation like The Big Issue, and then, as I say, just start looking at different facets of the business.
So this is a 25-man business. You start looking at that.
Yeah, so we started growing pretty quickly at that stage. So into 2014, we were probably up to about 30, 35 in the UK. Yeah. And whilst all of that was going on, I'd started looking globally at where we could go next.
So just stop there a sec. So I'm trying to get my head around it. So you're still a sales director?
Still a sales director.
So where's the founders and all the people that you worked for previously? What are they doing?
So the founders have always given me very good freedom with regards to what I'm able to do within the business. Are they still
in the business though? Were they there every day? Or?
So the two brothers, Paul and Marco. So Paul is our chairman. Paul has always been very much integral to the systems and processes of the organisation, the funding of the business, the back office operations, working with our finance director, our CFO, etc. Whereas I've very much complemented Paul's skills with regards to the front end of the business, if you like, the brand, the marketing, the hiring of all the staff, opening in new locations. So we've always had a very good complementary relationship within that respect. So at the time, we had another sales director for the contract side of the business. So we were effectively running as I was leading and driving perm, and the other sales director was leading and driving the contract side of things.
Okay. So you get in with The Big Issue as a CSR initiative.
Yeah.
How does that impact, or how does that even fit together with Salt?
So what that really did is accelerate the brand awareness. Okay, for me, it was like an education process on how important ethics are, how important empathy is, how important positioning your brand in the way that you want to be represented into the market. Okay, so I always wanted to do something that made sense to the Salt brand. I know some other companies do some amazing charitable things, whether it's help building schools in India or Africa, or animals that are about to go extinct, and I think that's fantastic. fantastic. But I think when you can incorporate CSR into your purpose as a business, and our purpose as a business is creating futures. That's our mission statement, and our vision is to create futures for our customers globally that will positively impact the digital economy. So to be able to do something in CSR that directly relates into the purpose of your business, for me, is a really powerful thing.
Yeah, makes sense. So what did that actually mean, though? So what did having the relationship? In what way did you actually partner together? What did you do?
I was able to share their content. I was able to help create awareness for the Big Issue Foundation, and about the fact that it's not a charity, it's a foundation, it's about social inclusion. So I've been very privileged to sponsor their birthday party 3 years running.
Wow.
I hosted a trustee event for them this year, providing them facilities to meet up and sort of food and beverages for the day, etc. And if their CEO reaches out and ever needs my support on something, I'm always happy.
Great.
Always happy to do that.
And do your clients then get involved with it?
We have most definitely invited our clients to their events, brought clients along to their birthday parties. I took part in a Big Issue night walk a couple of years back as well. Probably something I won't be doing again for a little while, given my ruptured Achilles this year. But we try and do as much as we can in terms of social awareness around the Big Issue and sharing their content online.
Wicked, love it. So let's go back then. So you just signed that deal. You've got the lady in from the LGBT community. You're at 30 heads now, starting to grow. You've still got the other sales director on contract. How did things progress beyond that?
So my next move was we opened an office in Sydney.
Right.
So in 2013, I spent probably from about July onwards speaking to people around the world, people in America, people in Europe, people over in Australia. And then I got chatting to a lady who at the time was 27 years old. She was running her own recruitment business, just herself. She'd worked for another recruitment business prior to that for 4 years. So although, she perhaps wasn't the most natural, there's our new country or regional director for a brand new office on the other side of the world. What I was inspired by was how she bought into my global vision for Salt. And our vision around digital, and how there were so many similarities in terms of how she saw the market. So I thought, if there's anyone I want representing our brand and our vision over the other side of the world, it's her. So
how did you? Is that through LinkedIn or?
Yeah, just through LinkedIn. So I'd heard that there was a few other businesses in digital looking at the APAC region in terms of a hub for high advertising spend. So I'd had Singapore on the radar. And then I thought, well, if we're going to open another business, it probably makes sense to go somewhere where, Brits will more likely relocate.
Yeah.
So I started looking around in Sydney for other digital recruitment businesses, and there weren't that many. It was very much an open market. There was more 1- and 2-man bands working in the Sydney market. So I probably spoke with 5 or 6 of them. And like I say, I was very, very impressed by Tian and, her, the way she described her vision around digital and how it synergized with ours.
So did you then acquire her business and turn it into Salt? Or did
so we flew her into the UK. She spent 2 weeks with us in the UK at the back end of 2013, and we agreed a deal that she would open our office in Sydney. We very quickly after found a serviced office. We then hired one of our first employees was a guy called Mark Truscott, who is still with us today. Great. And he's actually people and performance manager now for the whole of the APAC region. Wow. We then transferred, so the chap that was running our contracts division at the time, he then put his hand up to go out to Australia and help lead and build that office there. So
take
that's
a bit
what
of the UK
next.
culture with you.
Yes, exactly.
I like that. Yeah, I had Peter Hart on a couple of weeks ago from Austin Fraser, and they opened up Germany. And now, so they've got Germany, UK, US, I think 8 offices. And the thing he said was, culturally, it was great to have a UK team over there to take the UK arm and move it there. But then hiring locals was where they really had the blend, because Germany is very, very different culturally to the UK. And did you find a similar thing? Because Australia, I started my career in Australia, right? And Melbourne, I was working for Randstad, and it was literally 60% English people, 40% Aussies. We used to argue all day about words and terminology in cricket. If the weather was good, Aussies, a lot of them were sick. If the weather was bad, a lot of them were sick. English lads were all sat there going, what's going on? But I felt it was very similar. When I came back to the UK, I was like, it's not that different. What do you find when you opened Sydney? How did that progress, and was it very different?
I think the lifestyle, certainly in 2014 when we opened up, I think there was a lot more appreciation in Sydney around wellness and having more of a balanced lifestyle. I think in 2014, culturally, as a business in the UK, we were still very much more, if you're not working 10 to 12 hours in recruitment, what are you doing? And I think what a lot of people go to Australia for is, they do like living near the beach, they do like the outdoors lifestyle, and there's no point in going and creating that lifestyle if you're just going to be stuck in an office for 12 hours a day. Yes, we did see a contrast. We did see a difference.
How do you adapt to that?
Look, it's a good question. I don't think you can adapt an entire city and certainly an entire country to doing things the way, just because we do them in the UK a certain way. I mean, I think over our time of globalizing as a business, we've encountered not just a different culture and mindset in Australia, but also in New Zealand, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Dubai, America. I think the important thing as a business is to create a strong vision and a strong purpose for your employees, whether culturally people are then working 8-hour days or 10-hour days, or spending more time on kind of wellness and their health and going to the gym, or whether they are a slightly more play hard culture. I don't think it matters. There's always going to be different cultures all the way around the world. So I don't think you necessarily have to adapt. I think you just need to have a strong purpose, a strong vision, a strong structure as a company that your employees buy into and they're excited to work for.
Do your expectations change though? So if you know that culturally in Australia that 8 hours is more realistic than 10, do you then have to adapt your targets based on the fact that you think that they're all working 2 hours a day less, 12 times that by every member of staff over a year? Do you have to say, we expect less revenue or less performance?
I don't believe you do. And having worked my way from the ground up, I was still billing even when I had about sort of 15 or 20 staff, because I'd got to the point through time management where I could spend half my day managing people and half my day still billing. I'm a big believer that if you're providing excellent customer service, if you've built trust with your candidates and clients, you can spend much less time on recruitment. And if you're building your desk as a universe specialist, then generally when you get a role brief in, you should know someone for the job. And also as well on the reverse side, if a good candidate comes to you that's in your network, you should immediately know 4 or 5 opportunities for them in the marketplace. So I don't believe you need to be chained to your desk for 10 or 12 hours a day in recruitment anyway. I think with effective time management, you can have peak selling time in the morning, 9 till 12, and then 2 till 5 again in the afternoon. And those 6 hours of core activity spent with your customers on candidates and clients, that's more than enough time to do 2-3 placements a month. And if you're doing 2-3 placements a month in recruitment, you're going to be doing very well. You're going to be hitting target. You're going to be earning good commissions and bonuses. So no, we certainly don't reduce what you need to do with customers. For me, there's always talk in recruitment about KPIs. Are you a KPI-driven environment? If you don't have metrics, how can you measure the quality of what you're doing? As an example, so we measure quality in our business through NPS, Net Promoter Score.
Yeah, we're putting that in now as well.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So any customer that interacts with Salt in an interview process receives an email, and they can obviously give feedback on their experience and rate us between 0 and 10. That's providing amazing insights for us into which teams and which individuals perhaps need to be a little bit more customer focused.
Yeah.
Perhaps the ones that are so busy that they're engaging with 40, 50, 60 candidates a week and simply aren't having the time to get back to that many consultants compared to ones that are only engaging with 20 or 30 candidates per week. So that allows us, in terms of resource allocation, to provide resources to the right people, but it also allows us to train and retrain and develop our staff in a way that they need to appreciate the basics of calling people back. They need to overcome the fear of giving bad news as well, because as much as we all love delivering interviews and offers to candidates, none of us generally like calling a candidate up and saying you didn't get the job.
No.
All right, so again, it's giving our consultants the confidence to do that because it's good customer service.
Yeah, and proving it if it's not happening, right? That's I love that, and I think more businesses will start to adopt. They should be adopting that NPS scores. What you mentioned there really triggered something. So I'm from a very specialist recruitment background. So I used to do contract, insurance, pretty much Lloyd's of London, and it was business transformation. So it was project management, business analysis, technology architecture, BI, testing, and then I built a team where I specialize. I got everyone doing one of those roles, so it's super, super niche, and I think that's why we did so well. Now you just said universe specialist. So how do you structure it at Salt, and how has that worked for you?
Yes, so going back to what I described earlier around that complete vision of digital, so it was around 2011 that I divided the business into creative, marketing, sales and technology. What that did is, one, that gave the opportunity internally for people as leaders to step up and own a division. We've had leaders step up. So I have sales directors in London across each of those divisions. And then technology is broken down further into contract and perm as well. Within those divisions, we then silo things down even further. So one of the things that we do, everyone that joins Salt is given what we call a universe. So within either creative, marketing, sales or technology, you then get given a further specialism. So in creative, you might get given studio, you might get given client services, you might get given UX. And then also within that, you'll take it on either contract or perm. In marketing, you might join as a performance specialist. You might join to do data. You might join to focus on a vertical. So you might do FMCG, beauty and fashion, retail, telco. So everyone that joins Salt has an identity, and that's a really powerful thing that we give to our staff in terms of their purpose. So they know when they're coming in, they're not just another number. They're not going to be someone that's competing with 4 or 5 other consultants for the same customer, the same candidate and the same client. They come into Salt and they have an identity, and that really fits in with our hiring process as well. So if you look at our creative recruiters, I'd say 90% of them are ex-designers. Yeah. So they have a passion for what they're doing. They have a passion for speaking to clients about their design projects, and they then have a passion to speak to the candidates about their portfolios and understand their portfolios. If you look at our marketing recruitment team, a lot of our marketing recruitment team are ex-marketeers. So they may have worked in content. We've got ex-journalists. We've got people that have been marketing managers for tech companies. So they have that grounding and understanding for what they do. And again, the same on our sales team as well. Some of those guys have previously worked for software vendors. So again, they understand that vendor environment. They understand the pressure that, hunters and VPs of sales are under within those organizations. So we can empathize with our customers and we can give that added value.
How do you make sure that you don't cannibalize an area or under deliver on an area? So you said no one has too much competition based on their universe. How do you ensure that you've got the right amount of people per space? Yeah,
so there's been natural demand in certain areas. So software engineering, as an example, especially in our New York office, at some point or other, when our technology team in the US was around 10 or 11 people, we would have pretty much all of them at any one time doing software engineering, simply because, we're servicing a country with, 320 odd million people. Every consultancy under the sun out there, digital transformations across oil and gas companies, automotive companies, mass scale projects, hundreds of hires, hundreds of software engineers. So we've had to react to client demand. We also give opportunities for people to step up in their careers and grow out practices.
Right.
So, as an example, someone came in, they're doing UX on creative, but then they want to step up and be a manager, then they get that opportunity to then grow out more UX recruiters within their remit.
And do you give them the kind of the opportunity to tell you how many people they think?
Yeah, so we very much, so we can work on client demand and market demand. Also as well, when there's been disruption in the market. So when DevOps first became a term, with the rise of AI and machine learning, when product really started emerging in 2013, at different times in the digital transformation life cycle, we have had to make proactive decisions and say, we need a recruiter for this area. Cyber security, as an example, a couple of months back, we've taken on someone to help us build out cyber security internationally. He's done it at 2 or 3 previous other businesses, because the demand across all of our clients for cyber security is huge. So we need someone that understands that and understands that on an international scale. But again, from a consultant point of view, if they're stepping up and they see an opportunity in a market, we'll very much take their guidance as well. If they see that there's a prominent technology or a prominent market area that we should be hiring into.
I think one thing I'm getting off you already, we're only halfway through-ish, the simplicity of it. You got this big brand and everything you're saying is so simple. So you're not overcomplicating it. Do you not think so many people overcomplicate recruitment? I think, like from the way you're saying it is, you find a spot, you become an expert in it, you build people around you. Like it's not that complex.
Life is very easy to complicate, and many of us at many different times in our journeys overcomplicate life, and we can certainly overcomplicate business. One thing I've learned from speaking to other successful people over the years and reading many autobiographies is the simplicity of how a vision is projected. You know, people use the word strategy and vision. It sounds like this complicated God-given word and action that, you know, only a few people can do. Yeah. But it is, you know, you'll know from setting up your own businesses as well. If you understand something and you have a process behind it, all you've got to do is replicate that process over and over again. All you've got to do is hire people with good values that you can teach that process and take that process to the next level. So if I go right back to my early recruitment career in 2004, what I did, I sat there my first hour in recruitment and I listened to people on the phone. And I very quickly established that this is a relationship game. We are talking to customers and we need to provide good customer service. So straight away I was like, tick, I can do that. I've been doing that within every job that I've ever had. I then looked at the complicated sales board that had data all over it. So I went over there to look at the simplicity of it. And I just saw this very simple trail of what you needed to do. If you make calls, and you speak to customers, you're either going to get leads or you're going to get jobs from customers or you're going to book meetings, okay? Once you have jobs, you can then send CVs. Once you send CVs, you can then book interviews. Once you book interviews, you can get offers. Once you get offers, you can get placements, right? For me, that process has never changed. No. You know, I'm approaching 15 years in recruitment now, and I tell that same story, that same journey, that same process over and over again. As a business leader, it's about making that exciting for people. And that's where the purpose side of running the business comes in. And that's why you have to identify very early on when you're interviewing someone is what are you genuinely passionate about? Yeah. What is your purpose? What is it you aspire to do? What are your dreams? And how can we connect that within our organization? You know, how can we make your role within our business exciting? So as an example, I remember interviewing someone many years back and they said they love travel. Yeah, they love travel businesses, they love e-commerce. And I said, well, it's a no-brainer. You know, you're interviewing here at Salt. We have a place in our marketing team. So I'm going to let you do travel, leisure and hospitality. And for the next 3 or 4 years, that person was very successful and they were working with travel businesses, leisure businesses. They opened up some football clubs. They were working in this world that they loved connecting with, all right? And that's something that I believe if you can attach those passions and dreams and drives of an individual to a very simple process, because recruitment is a very simple process. Provide good customer service and connect candidates with clients. Don't overcomplicate it upon that. That is what we do.
So, all right, that moves nicely into where we are. So we're at the point where you've got Australia off the ground. 2014, did you say? 2015? Mm-hmm. And that's about 4 or 5 years ago. That was your first. So let's go through what's happened since then. Okay,
so when we landed on the ground in Sydney, we get a legal letter within the first week saying you cannot be called Salt. There is a business in New Zealand that has trademarked Salt, and they also trade in Australia. So
not recruitment, right?
Yes, in recruitment. In recruitment, yeah. So they were a generalist recruiter based over in Auckland. And there was two founders behind that business, brother and sister, Sean and Jackie Barrett. And we had a couple of conversations with them early doors about, you know, that we've got the same name, but we're in different markets. Can we do some sort of partnership? And they were very polite, but, you know, very politely declined our offer of a partnership. I then investigated further and found out that they'd actually acquired an ex-Headquartered business. Headquartered are a massive global creative recruiter, And they'd acquired their Asian offices, Hong Kong, Singapore and Malaysia. So we then understood why they weren't open to a partnership, because Headquartered obviously recruit within creative media and marketing. So
they were quite big then, this Salt, to acquire that.
So they had about 15 staff in Auckland. It was opportunistic. So they knew Greg Savage, who was behind Headquartered, and they'd got to acquire, as I say, these offices. They were small offices at the time. I think they had about 3 to 6 staff in Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, and over in Singapore as well. So we stayed in touch with these guys. My obsession was to build a digital recruitment brand that everyone globally bought into and saw it as being synonymous with digital. So for me, being called anything else but Salt wasn't an option. We had to, at the time, change our name. So we had to change our name, and we called ourselves Sodium. I was playing around with the brand, and I was trying to do something maybe slightly obnoxious with sodium chloride, obviously being salt, the chemical formula. So I was, can we, be called CL2? Can we be called salt, but from a branding point of view with CL2? So we started playing around with that, settled on being called Sodium for the time being. But then we were able to meet Sean and Jackie Barrett, who were open to having a discussion about a merger or an acquisition. And by around April 2016, we'd agreed a deal to part acquire their business, all merged together, become Salt. They'd actually called their businesses up in Asia when they acquired it from Firebrand Font. So they had Salt and Font. So we rebranded everything as Salt, all came under the kind of Salt UK brand and logo, etc. While all of that was going on, we'd been scoping New York and Dubai. And in 2015, I'd actually flown a guy in from Dubai to work out of the UK office for 5 months. He was running a business in Dubai with his then fiance, now wife. Right. And he was doing creative and marketing recruitment. So I said, look, I want to do something in Dubai. I like the look of your business. Come to the UK. Let's together prove that there's a good business out in the Middle East, because the rest of the Salt directors at the time weren't necessarily looking to go to Dubai and didn't necessarily see the opportunity. But for me, if we were going to become a truly global business and we were going to connect, I saw Dubai as that conduit between UK and Europe and over in Asia as well. And from a flight path perspective, obviously Dubai is almost like the center of the earth right now. So I saw the opportunity there, managed to get the board to agree that I could bring this chap over to the UK.
Just hire him
for 5 months, So we basically just hired him organically within the UK business. Wow. He sat within our sales team. But within sort of 3 or 4 months, we'd hired 2 or 3 staff in the London office. So they work in Dubai remotely. We'd started doing deals out in Dubai. And we said, let's go for it. So we started rigging a serviced office in Dubai from about December 2015. So come 2016, we were good to go. While all that was going on, one of my sales directors in the UK, James Walsh, he'd got to a point with his role in the UK and said, listen, Elliot, I want to challenge. I want to do something differently. So I actually, James helped me with regards to the due diligence around Dubai. He's, at the time, fiance was working out in Dubai, so he was happy to go on a couple of BD trips out there. He did such a good job in that role. I thought, is there some sort of versatile role for him? So he then did a similar thing with the US, and we flew to the US a couple of times together with another one of our colleagues, Mitch, at the time, and met up with a few clients that had large projects in North America at the time. Anyway, cut a long story short, by October 2015, we'd hired a couple of people and we launched in a WeWork over in New York. Yeah. So it was
early WeWork days then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So over a period of 18 months, having just opened in Sydney, we'd started engaging in merger conversations with the business in New Zealand and Asia. We opened Dubai and we opened up New York. So we very quickly.
What was the headcount growth from that first day in Sydney to then?
So if we go January 2014, we were probably 35 staff, and then when we completed the merger in April 2016, we were about 165, 170 globally.
Wow. How do you even go about incorporating all these people that are from a different brand that you didn't hire? They didn't buy into your vision to join the company, and then do you have to weed through them and check that they are Salt quality and retrain them? And it sounds like a lot. I mean, I can understand why M&A goes on and why people bring, but what's the negative side of that you have to deal with?
So we were very fortunate in that the Salt business that we merged with in New Zealand was a fantastic business. It really was highly profitable, low attrition, great values, great ethics, great leader. So with regards to the New Zealand merger, it was pretty much let's slot that business on. And although it's a much smaller business than the UK business, there's a lot we can learn from. So we actually adopted NPS from the guys in New Zealand. With regards to Asia was the business where we really could collaborate with our new business partners, Sean and Jackie, on taking the good bits that we were doing in the UK, in New York, in Dubai, in Sydney, and merging them with the best practice that they were doing over in New Zealand. So at the time in Asia, they weren't doing anything within the tech market. I knew a few people in Asia that I'd worked with over the years, a chap called Sam Baxendale, working for a company called Ambition at the time. So as soon as we were entering into Asia, I picked up the phone to Sam and said, "Hey Sam, I'd love you to come on board." Within sort of 6 months, he agreed to come on board and head up Asia for us. So I guess from a cultural integration point of view, Asia has got so many different cultures. Hong Kong is very different to Singapore, and Singapore is very different to Malaysia. And as I said earlier, there's different cultures all over the world. So for us, it was just about continuing to push our Salt identity into that region and very much just and have belief that, people are going to buy into the passion and purpose for what we stand for, the digital market, the excitement around digital disruption that we would bring into the market. But yeah, it provided, from a personal perspective, working with, new regions, new leaders, new businesses, it's kind of become a bit of a forte for myself and for the Salt brand that we integrate cultures. Because very early on, I joined the business to join effectively an IT contracts business. We then had to merge with a bunch of executive search consultants who were suited and booted. We then had to become a digital recruitment business where we were hiring creatives who were dressed down. So I've already gone from joining a business wearing a suit and tie, merging with an exec search recruitment business, moving from Surrey to London, then rebranding as Salt and going through that identity change, then hiring creative recruiters in London who didn't want to be managed by KPIs, who didn't believe in KPIs. Then building a business that's got 4 very different divisions. If you go into the Salt London office today, you meet our creative team, our marketing team, our sales team, and our technology. They all have their different identities. The leaders are all slightly different. The consultants within it all bring something different to the party as well. So for me, I love the challenge of doing that. People integration, cultural integration. I absolutely thrive upon it. And
what were the hardest bits about that whole merger and acquisition of quite a big business in Asia? What went wrong, or what didn't you do so well in that instance?
What went wrong?
Can't have all been smooth.
It definitely wasn't all smooth. Okay, and we've actually just recently acquired another business in Asia as well. A business that I've actually admired for a number of years in the APAC region called Expand, who have got some fantastic on-site solutions with the likes of Google, with Facebook, with eBay. So again, a smaller business, circa 25 people by the time we acquired it, but very much a business that we can learn from. What's worked very well within the Salt business is people spending time in the UK business, in the London office, and having access to all the systems and processes, tools, materials, and energy that we have. If you can imagine, you go to a Hong Kong office where at times there's been 3 or 4 people, and you join the business there as a Salt employee, the experience is going to be very different to joining Salt in the London office where you've got 100 staff. You've got 5 fantastic sales directors, a commercial director, 600 or 700 key accounts that you can learn and bounce off of, weekly training sessions. Some of the smaller offices don't have access to these things. So I think perhaps if my key learning from it is being better prepared with employees and leaders from the headquarters that you can relocate to the satellite offices, so you can very much quicker embed and ingrain the DNA of what really is the mothership and has provided the kind of success and foundations of the business. Okay, makes sense. So you opened New York, which was when? October the 5th, 2015. So we're now almost 4 years on. Yeah. So how's the last 4 years gone? Yeah, James has done a great job in New York. He's gone out there full of energy, full of grit and determination to succeed. In year 1, we did about $2.5 million in sales. Yeah. Last year, we did about $4.5 million in sales and over $1 million in profit. This year we reinvested a lot last year, so we did the $4.5 million and $1 million profit with around 15 heads last year. This year we had ambitious plans to get to stable headcount of 25. It's been tough. The New York recruitment market is different from the UK market in the sense of there's many more 180 recruiters we found that across the whole of America, to be honest. And we thought we could disrupt it and have, more 360 recruiters. So we went over there with a 360 business plan, a 360 career ladder, 360 commission structures. So our key learnings from the US is really, do more due diligence into the markets you're going into.
So have you changed that now?
It's something we're very much in the process of working on right now, because what we see with the US market is people get into recruitment from a grad point of view and they're happy to go into kind of 180 talent agent, resourcing roles, earn their stripes, filling jobs, and then later on move into business development. Whereas in the UK, I think we've always been much more at the forefront of bring someone on board and within 3 to 6 months, you expect that person to be a 360 recruiter.
Well, can't you create that in people? Like that's almost like if they're working for Salt and they've never done recruitment, sure, whether they're American or English, you can create the same.
Yes, you can. As I said, though, we went over there with a 360 vision and 360 business model. We also thought it would be much easier to hire UK recruiters and send them over to the US. Now, whilst the economy has boomed in the US over the last 3 years, we know with Trump coming into power, etc., it's been great for the economy in that respect. But there definitely has been a tightening up with regards to visas. Right. So we are starting to see visas be declined for UK citizens wanting to work out in the US.
So you're having to look at the local community first.
Yes. Yeah. So it hasn't been as agile to be able to get as many recruiters on board as we would have liked. So we're going to finish the year in the US on around 23, 24 staff, but we've spent most of the year on sort of 18, 19
How many of them
hires.
are from America and how many are sent over?
I'd say we're probably two-thirds. I think we're about, maybe just under 2/3 American now. Wow. And sort of just over a third in terms of
Do you find
British.
they are very different in the way they want to work, the way they're motivated?
I wouldn't say very different. I think they're just used to the recruitment market and the recruitment company setup being slightly different. And that's why if you look at all the other sort of English recruitment companies out there, they are sort of typically, full of British and Irish recruiters and haven't necessarily made too many waves to adapt to a different model. I think if you look at other locations, non-New York, I think if you look at Texas, I think businesses that have gone to Texas had typically either been to New York or already learnt about businesses setting up in New York. Yeah. So what we are finding with businesses in Texas is that they are adopting more the 180 model. And Texas is very much a location that we are looking at Salt for office number 2 in the US.
And why do you need so many offices in it? Is it because to get in front and meet clients and candidates is just a big part of the culture?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the UK, there's 65, 70,000 million people, and yet you still see UK recruitment businesses have an office in London, Bristol, maybe Birmingham, maybe Manchester as well. In the US, you're not going to get across 320 million people with one office in New York. So we very much want to have a presence in Texas and potentially one day on the West Coast as well.
Wow. So that leads really nicely into the next bit, which is about where you're heading, right? So you're sat here today with 220 odd staff or whatever it is and soon to be 10 offices. What is the future for yourself and the business?
So we've just had our AGM in Dubai. And we had our quarterly launch
perfect time of year to be there,
at Salt in October. And the theme of both our AGM and our quarterly launch was growth. And growth at Salt right now isn't just about opening more offices and hiring loads more staff. It's about individual growth. It's about how can we best support people's careers to be the best that they can be and advance their career in the best way. Growth through training, growth through development, growth for our customer base and growth through solutions that we're selling to our customers. So I created a product in 2014 called the DRO, which is Digital Recruitment Outsourcing. It was at the time when we were much smaller, but I wanted us to look like a bigger company and feel like a bigger company, and to be able to provide customers, enterprise customers, with a larger recruitment solution. So effectively, we can outsource a customer's entire digital recruitment needs. So because we have the 4 different divisions in Salt: creative, marketing, sales and technology, we can take on all of their creative work, we can take on the marketing department's growth, we can take on the technology builds, we can take on the product work, and if it's a vendor or a consultancy, we can take on the building of their sales teams as well. So the future for us in terms of growth is definitely making what we have the best it can be, but naturally we are always having conversations with businesses in new locations. Myself and my chairman get approached, if not weekly, every other week, about businesses that want to merge or create a partnership or are looking to be acquired in some way, shape or form.
So you have recruitment owners reaching out to you?
Yeah, very much so. So we're constantly in conversations.
What's your? I mean, do you have to put yourself out there to say, look, we are acquiring, or is it just because of the brand people think?
Look, I go to M&A roundtables. Obviously, I've met up with many other MDs and CEOs and business owners over the years. So I've got a good network of people that I stay in touch with. There's some smaller recruitment businesses that I like to kind of advise and mentor and meet up with for coffees, etc. Just to throw out some of the experiences that I've had over the years in terms of building Salt and how they can learn from that. So I'm in touch with a decent sized community of people, and that's globally as well. So there's people that I keep regular touch with in locations that Salt aren't even in right now.
Yeah.
That the way I see it is, if I can help advise people looking to set up recruitment businesses or people building recruitment businesses in new regions, then maybe one day we can create a partnership together or merge or acquire that business. So personally, I'm always looking for that next thing. I've got a great management team, a great leadership team at Salt, and that allows me to be very much creative within my role, very much forward thinking, always looking for great people to come on board the Salt journey, always looking at businesses that very much complement the Salt brand and the Salt vision. So yeah, growth will very much be at the forefront.
Is there an exit strategy? Is there some big strat ending to this whole journey that you're on?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you speak to any business owner, shareholder, CEO of a recruitment business, I doubt any of them are going to sit there and say, we've got a 6-month exit plan or 2-year exit plan or whatever it may be. Look, I joined the business as a startup business. I'm very proud of what I've helped build over the last 14 and a half years. I'm constantly updating my own personal 5-year vision for where I see I can take the business. If I ever thought I couldn't take the business further, I would be very honest with myself about that. I recently turned 41 last month. I've still got lots of energy.
You look a lot younger, and you've got more energy than me.
I've got lots of energy, lots of vision, lots of life. I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm a strong believer in the way that I run the business and lead the business. The ethics and empathy I have with our staff. I believe that I can continue to take the business much further.
What is your day-to-day like as the CEO of a 200 and plus man business? I've got the 20-man business right now, and I know what my days are like. What are your days like?
So the key parts of my business are obviously catching up with my direct reports. So I have 10 direct reports, and my key focus is to make sure that I'm providing them with the best emotional support, and they are being the best versions of what they can be day to day. So the key aspect to what I do is, are those 10 people in control of what they're doing? Do they have all the tools and the systems and processes that they need to run their teams in the best possible way that they can do? So that's tick box first and foremost. I then like to be visible within the organisation with regards to development of our key accounts, training sessions, and any initiatives in terms of growth. So I'm very vocal about what I'm personally doing. So I'll let even consultants on the sales floor know if I'm thinking about opening up in Canada or in Russia or wherever the next location may be. I like to share that energy with our staff so they get a feel for me and what we're doing and where we're going. Also for me, then that creates that bit of peer pressure to then go out and do these things. So
how do you also get around 200 people? Like, one of the things that I think I was watching a YouTube video, and he said, like, you'll never have, once you get past 100 people, you'll never have a relationship with the next 100 like you did with the first. And you probably never have a relationship like you will with the first 10 or 20 that stay. How do you become or offer value to every one of members of staff in that business?
So obviously the structure within which we run the business, with James running the Americas, with Sean and Jackie, who came over with the Salt New Zealand business as business partners, with their focus on the APAC region, with James's focus on the Americas. I've got a great leader out in Dubai, Rick Smith. I've got 5 amazing sales directors in the UK business. I've got a commercial director in the UK who supports those 5 directors on key account management. As I said earlier, if I'm working with my direct reports to be the best versions that they can be, plus I'm also being visible from an inspirational point of view. I write all of our company launches, so I make it very clear what the direction of the business is. We've just had our AGM out in Dubai, and again, I laid down our growth strategy and was very visible and very honest and very direct with regards to where we're going as a business. I use the opportunities in those forums to set out what we are doing as a business, and then I am then accountable for that. So if then I'm then updating the business each quarter on those growth plans, being accountable for things that I've said the business are going to do, and then we do those things, then for me, I'm fulfilling my role as CEO in terms of driving the business forward and giving everyone within the business purpose and passion to continue to work for us.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, couple of things I've got more, right? First thing was about there's lots of people listening to this podcast who are either in the thick of trying to grow an agency now, 1 or 2 years in, maybe 3 to 4 years in, and a lot of them won't be at the size that you are. There's also a lot of people that are sat there in the recruitment business, probably thinking I'm going to quit in January or December, and I'm launching next year or the year after. And I get messages, I know these people are listening. So what advice have you got for people that are either struggling or about to start that growth plan? Because not everyone seems to get out of that billing mentality when they're the leader or the owner of a recruitment company. What few bits of advice would you give these people to say, how do they step up and start to grow a brand that's not just about their picking up the phone and it's about others?
So an interesting thing you mentioned there is about when you're growing a recruitment business, you need to get away from billing or adapt your role in a certain way, shape or form. I hear about reputations of some fantastic leaders out in the recruitment industry there. Simon LaFosse as an example.
We had him on last year.
His reputation around that exec search part and CIO suite of the market is fantastic. And, he's driven and led that business by being at the forefront of his customers and being at the forefront of that CIO network. He's then hired great people around him to complement his skill sets and then help grow that business. And it's a great way. It's a great way to do things. And I've adopted a similar approach with hiring people around me that are very different to me and bring very different things to the party. I think that's the key thing when you're building and growing a business. Hire people that are going to complement your own personal skill set. So it doesn't matter whether you're still very hands-on, whether your strength is with candidates, whether it's with clients, whether it's with back office, whether it's with the vision, the brand, the marketing. There's so many different facets of running a business anyway. You can't do everything, okay? And certainly when you become CEO of a business, you can't do everything. You need to have a great marketing director. You need to have a great CFO and marketing director. You need to have a great commercial director, sales directors, etc. And then within those teams as well, you then need great universe specialists, great sales managers, practice leads, etc. So it's always about hiring the right talent. And that's what I love about my belief within that. As a recruitment business leader, that is then my message to customers. You're not going to grow a successful business unless you hire the right people. So it doesn't matter what your strength is, hire people to complement what you do.
Okay. I think that explains it. And I mean, that's what I want to do. So I love it. I love learning from people like yourself on this podcast. One other thing is about brand, because obviously I'm banging on about brand all day, right? I talk about marketing and how investing in your brand is actually just as important as just hiring recruiters. I think it's so important in 2019-20, but you've been doing this for ages. And actually, I'd say your brand are one of the best out there that I would mention it on another podcast. I actually wanted to interview for you guys back in 2012. You didn't even interview me. You fucking messed up there. But the reason was I got presented with 6 brands from Australia when I was coming back, and you guys just stood out a mile. Like, looked at the website, looked at even the Waterloo Arches, all of it. I was so excited by it. I didn't even get an interview. Elliot, what did you do wrong?
Sorry about that.
It's all right. But tell us, I mean, what's your opinion on recruitment agencies spending money on brand, on marketing, when it's not always as clean an ROI as just hiring someone that's going to build 200 grand?
So if I look at, there's so many successful recruitment businesses out there that haven't necessarily invested in the brand, maybe haven't even necessarily invested in their people to the extent to which other businesses have. There's many different ways to which you can build and grow a business. For me, it came back to my passion for the business that I wanted to create. And, I wanted to create a business that I was proud of. I wanted to create a business that our customers bought into and they connected to the digital recruitment market. So for me, there was no other way to do it than through the brand. And in fact, I remember doing a sales launch in 2014 where I put the Salt logo on a screen with Twitter, with Google, with Facebook, with Adidas, with Nike. And I said, we are going to be the Google of recruitment. We are going to be the brand that stands out. We are going to be the brand that people recognize. I was chatting to someone in Dubai last week about where I wanted to take the Salt brand in the future, and I said I wanted to build so much customer engagement and so much customer trust that, like with Amazon, you could go onto the Salt recruitment website and you could buy digital talent. You could hire someone within 7 clicks. If you can go onto a website and buy a car for 70,000, 80,000 pounds, or buy a Rolex watch for 15,000 pounds, why would you not go onto a website of a recruitment brand that you bought into and pay a recruitment fee for a developer that's say 12 or 14,000 pounds? That's where I want to take the brand. That's where I see the vision of Salt, and that's the type of business that I want to create.
You're not going to do that by no brand. You're not going to do that by just hiring salespeople.
Exactly. So there's different ways to do it, but my personal way of doing it is through the trust of the brand and customer engagement.
Love it. All right. Final bit, a bit about you. So as an individual, when I met you in the summer, you were injured, you're a keen sportsman. Tell us a bit more about you outside of Salt. What's Elliot up to?
Yeah, so very proud husband, father, ex-drinker, ex-partier. I gave up alcohol in 2015.
Wow.
I felt it was one of the things in life that I wanted to remove. Yeah. My passion and purpose had very much changed from the early years of kind of work hard, play hard in recruitment, and I just started to have a better appreciation for life and the things that were important. My wife is a yoga teacher, so she's had a massive influence on me. With regards to life, having a sort of more spiritual side, having a more connected side. One of the things that I've always personally needed to work on is communication. As much as I may be a great public speaker and be able to drive and motivate people, I'm also someone that, when they got home would just kind of switch off and, go into my world of silence. And, when you have a wife and children, that's always not the best person to be at home.
How old are your kids?
So I have 3 kids. So 14, 7 and 5.
Wow, so you were what, 27 when you had your first one?
I think so.
So that, wow. So you were basically just starting off at Salt.
Yeah, exactly that.
Doing all that with not just one child, but then more, it must have been, that must have been hard work.
Yeah. So look, life throws up challenges and situations, and I believe each situation is an opportunity to learn and make us stronger. Over the last few years, if you look at my social profile as an example, I talk a lot about purpose, mindfulness, self-love, going back into what I spoke about earlier in terms of my genesis into recruitment was to be able to inspire and motivate people. I also want to help people be the best versions of themselves, and I believe there's many techniques around mindfulness and understanding self-love and self-appreciation and self-care that helps our staff at Salt to be the best versions of themselves, but two, also from a sort of brand perspective, it shows our customers that we care about them. We don't just want to find them a job anywhere. We want to find them their dream job. We want to find them a job where they're going to have purpose and passion. We want to work with customers that do have, wellness programs, good employee programs. I was at an event for Virgin Unite a few weeks ago called 100% Human at Work, with some amazing people, speakers from all around the world. Richard Branson himself gave a speech at the end there, and it was just talking about how we can continue throughout this automation age to treat our employees in the right way, how we can have good appreciation of their wellness and of their mental health, and make sure that people are being onboarded and into a business in the right way, and then they're going to be treated in the right way. And there's many things being talked about at the moment, whether it's the 4-day week, whether it's an increase in flexible working. It's jobs are high pressured these days because of the mobile phone. If I think about my early years in recruitment, you could leave the office, and once you left the office, you were uncontactable. Whereas now you can have candidates and clients emailing you at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. That's stressful. And because people are living on their phones and they have their social lives through their phone, and they're on Instagram till 10, 11 at night, they're going to be checking their emails as well, which means their brains aren't switching off from work from 6 in the morning when they wake up, when their mobile phone alarm goes off and they're woken up. They probably no doubt check their messages and emails, and they might have a despondent candidate or client message them then. So straight away the stress hormones are being released. And
how do you manage that?
How do I?
Do you check your phone outside of work, or do you switch off?
So I don't check my phone till I get on the train in the morning. So I had to set my alarm anywhere between 5:35 and 6 o'clock in the morning, and I don't check my phone until between 7:20 and 7:45 when I get on the train. I also typically, so I don't have any alerts on my phone, so I don't have any WhatsApp alerts, Instagram alerts, messaging alerts. My phone is quite often on silent.
Mine's
I'll
always on silent.
have a few frustrated friends and colleagues that say I'm not always the easiest to get hold of.
Do you think it helps you though?
It definitely does, because one of the things I picked up upon early on in my recruitment career was about being proactive as opposed to reactive. And I think if you're too reactive to messages, to emails, to pings going off on your phone, then you're constantly being distracted from your own
complete anything.
Purpose.
100%. Do you know what? I think I said it on my last week's podcast, but you might laugh, but right, I got a dog the other week by a complete random Sunday. Went for breakfast, ended up going to see some puppies, and I brought a dog home. I've been wanting one for ages, but I got one. All right, and it's been an amazing couple of weeks. Like he's upstairs right now, sleeping hopefully, or pooing on the floor. We'll work it out when I get up. But do you know what? The biggest impact it's had is on my phone. I've not looked at my phone. When I go home now, because I'm so busy trying to get this puppy to walk and eat and taking him out, and he pauses outside. He doesn't want to move. And I wake up in the morning, I've got like 40 minutes of shit to do before I even leave the house. My screen time's gone down by 41% and from the time I got him. And I've loved it. And I'm like, do you know what I mean? I've not turned all my notifications off, but it's made me, I've always said I want to be more present when I'm outside of work. And it's really it's a random little thing that's made me do it. It might be like having kids or whatever. But I'm massively bought into that now. How do I stay connected enough that I'm not suffering? I'm not doing my team a disservice. Like if messages are coming out, how soon do I need to respond to help people? Because you might have that. Sometimes people have a burning question. Something needs a decision. And if I'm Mr. Zen who's like not reading it, so how do you balance? Is there any way of balancing that, or do you just think that time frame of 5 to 7 is your time? Yeah.
So I'm a believer that. As long as you respond to something within 24 hours, I think it's absolutely reasonable, because even if you're not, you may be on a conference, or you may be on holiday, or you may be away with family or on a day out or something like that. So I think if you respond to someone within 24 hours, it's reasonable. I think if something's urgent, someone will call you, or they'll continue to message you and let you know it's urgent. But it's something. So I created a mindfulness in the workplace program in 2016, and I've rolled it out across most of our offices. And one of the key things that I get across during that for me, my journey around mindfulness isn't just about, doesn't really even heavily involve meditation, something that I get asked about a lot. My philosophy around mindfulness is about mindful living. So one of the concepts of that is simply doing one thing at a time. And when you relate that into a recruiter's life and time management, if you're resourcing a role, focus on resourcing a role. Yeah, you can't be speaking to 5 or 10 candidates, going through an opportunity with them whilst responding to a client who's got an urgent request to book some interviews, whilst dealing with a colleague who may be on holiday and trying to book in some of their interviews. It's about time management and allocating your time to do certain things. When I'm in the office, I'm very responsive. I'm very reactive. There's people constantly knocking on my door because I very much have an open door policy. But I make it very clear if I'm busy. I make it very clear that, during this time, I'm not going to be I'm not going to be contactable. And also as well, if you need to speak to me about this, actually, I'll be back in the office tomorrow, or I'll be available on the phone at 4:00 and we're dealing with it then. So for me, it's just about time management, time managing all the situations that you get into. And, all my direct reports have got used to that's the way that I work. Right, they know that's the way that I work, and they know that if there's something really important that they need to discuss with me, just book in a time with me. I'll accept it, and we can go through it then. It makes our interactions much better. It makes it more effective, and it means I'm not sort of abruptly, pushing people away because I haven't got time.
Yeah, and married to a yoga teacher. Does that mean you practice a lot of yoga?
Yes. So look, prior to my Achilles tendon rupture, I used to attend at least one of my wife's weekly yoga classes. So I very much missed that over the last 4.5 months while I've been rehabilitating from the rupture. But yeah, look, it's fantastic. Serena and I complement each other very well, and she's taught me so much with regards to human connection, my understanding of myself. I've been on a huge self journey myself over the last 3 years. I'm someone that wasn't afraid to address my challenges in life. I've had therapy. I've seen mindfulness coaches. I've been away to retreats on self-discovery. Mm-hmm. So, for me, you can never improve self enough. For me, self-improvement, self-care, self-love, there's no end point, there's no destination, there's no completion date. No. It's something we need to continually work on in life. And, by addressing my own challenges in life, I have far away become a much better person, a much more wholesome person. I'm so much more connected. I'm so much more aware. I used to let so much of life drift by just because I, would shut down. I would switch myself off from the rest of the world. So yeah, my journey of self-discovery, Serena's been a huge part of that.
Wow. Well, look, it's clearly paying off. It's clearly paying off. It sounds like you've done an amazing job, and you've got an amazing business, and it's an exciting future. Personally, I'll be watching, seeing what's going on, and I hope some of the listeners have been inspired as well. And are you happy for people to reach out and ask you some questions? I know you said you mentor people, and there might be some asking to buy them, but maybe not. Absolutely.
So. Yeah, look, I love helping people, supporting people. I've actually done life coaching courses, mindfulness courses. I'm about to start a neuroscience course as well. I love connecting with people. I love answering questions. I get many people reaching out to me. Mm-hmm. I post a lot of things out online on Instagram and on LinkedIn and on Facebook that show that I'm an open person and that I'm not afraid to talk about any facets of mental health or challenges that people may be facing in life. So yeah, I'd love to hear from your viewers.
All right, wicked. Well, look, Elliot, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing.
No problem.
So
Thanks
much.
for having me, Sean.
And that wraps up another episode of The Rag. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying this season because, as much as I am recording it. As always, I'm asking, please get on LinkedIn, share your comments on this episode and any episode that you're listening to on our season. The more we get recruitment owners and recruiters in the market listening to this podcast and learning from each other, I personally believe we'll come together as a community and we'll grow, and we'll make sure that the industry is stronger. Also, the Apple Podcast Store, if you're on there, please give us a 5-star rating and your comments. That, again, helps the algorithm reach more people. I'll be back again next week with another high-profile guest telling their unique story of recruitment agency growth. See you then.